Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our next guest is known for his hilarious columns, novels, and love of the exploding whale. His new memoir takes us on his journey from childhood into the world of writing. We welcome back to AM Northwest the author of Class Clown, the one and only Dave Barry. Dave, how you doing?
I'm great. Helen, how are you?
Good. Okay, but I want to read the subtitle, How I Went 77 Years Without Growing Up.
Yeah, that's the truth. There I am. I was told like more than once as a youth, I was something of a wiseass in school. You'll be shocked to hear.
Yeah.
And more than once I literally was the class clown. And more than once I was told, that's very funny, but you can't joke your way through life.
Uh-huh.
Which turns out to be not true.
Yeah,
you can.
You proved them wrong.
In fact, I am the living embodiment of the person who joked his way through life.
And I love, first of all, I love the picture on the cover. It's adorable in your Davy Crockett T-shirt.
That was legit. I had a Davy Crockett T-shirt in like second grade in the early '50s when Davy Crockett was huge.
Yeah.
He was like Taylor Swift, but he was killing bears and stuff.
A lot like Taylor Swift, but not. There's that. You talk about your childhood with honesty, and it's very sweet. You love your parents. They were really good people. Your dad was a minister, but you also go on to describe he also had an alcohol problem.
Yeah, my dad was a wonderful man. He was the best man I ever knew, and spent his life doing good for other people. But in his late 40s, early 50s, he developed an alcoholism problem. And he, like many alcoholics, went through a lot. His family, us, we went through a lot. But he bottomed out, reached bottom, as they call it, and got into Alcoholics Anonymous, and not only recovered himself, but went on to, for the next couple of decades, help a whole lot of other people deal with it. So he was a great guy. He was a flawed person, like most people.
Yeah.
Both my parents had flaws, but he was a wonderful dad. And I did want to talk about it. I didn't want to dismiss his issues in my book, but I want to stress he was a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And your mom is where you got your sense of humor.
Yeah, again, my mom's, that's kind of the same thing. My mom was, she was the funniest person I ever knew, and everything I know about humor I got from her. Like the rule in our house was you didn't take anything seriously, and especially you did not take your own self seriously. And she had a very edgy sense of humor, especially for a housewife, as they were called in the 50s, raising 4 kids. But she was hilariously funny. She also had issues. She had suffered from depression all her life, and after my dad died, my mom spiraled downward and ultimately took her own life, which I talk about in the book.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this tragedy, this guy, his mom committed suicide and his dad was an alcoholic. And weird, both of those things are true, and yet they were wonderful parents, and
right.
I had a wonderful childhood.
They were good people. At what point did you realize you wanted to be a writer?
I always liked to write, and I always liked to make people laugh. So like when I got out of college, it seemed natural to get a job writing, which was in the newspaper business. But I didn't think that I would be able to make a living writing humor. I was a regular newspaper reporter. I covered obituaries and fires and municipal meetings that are probably still going on.
Didn't they last forever? I just have to say.
I wrote humor.
Yeah, you did. And people loved that. And there was a publisher that really fell in love with your humor writing and hired you. Was it the Tropic? Was that the one that?
Well, I ultimately ended up at the Miami Herald, which is kind of where I still am today, writing humor. It's kind of a convoluted path to get there. But yeah, I ended up with the best job in American journalism. I could just make whatever I wanted, make it up. And they would send me all over the country to cover ridiculously stupid stories, like the whale that exploded. And well, I didn't get to actually be there for that. But
yeah, well, you won the Pulitzer covering the garbage barge that kept moving around in New York, which was hilarious. You won the Pulitzer. What I thought was so funny too was the picture of you and your son Rob. And he's grabbing onto you like he's so proud of his dad for winning the Pulitzer. Oh, he's such a great dad. But the story behind it is funnier.
Yeah, in that picture, Rob looks delighted, thrilled, and it was a picture that ran on the front page of the Miami Herald the day I won a Pulitzer Prize. The reason he is excited in that picture, he's 7 years old, is I just told him I was going to buy him a Nintendo because we had been planning to go to Key West, and he was very excited about that. And when I won the Pulitzer, I realized I couldn't go to Key West. So I told him, but I'll buy you a Nintendo, which I'd been promising him, but hadn't done. And he goes, really? Oh yeah. And he jumps up and hugs me. So that's the picture on the front page of the Miami Herald. And all my friends said, God, it was so great that Rob was so happy for you winning the Pulitzer Prize. And he didn't even know what a Pulitzer Prize was. He just knew he was getting a Nintendo.
Which makes it all the funnier. I just love that picture. You got in trouble too. You talk about the letters that people would send you, the criticisms you'd get, which I find hilarious because I've gotten several of those myself. The one is you got a lot of trouble for criticizing Neil Diamond.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, thanks, Helen, for bringing that up.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. I did. I wrote this was not even the point of the column, but I said there's some songs that I just don't like to hear on the radio, and I always hit and one of them was a Neil Diamond song. And I want to stress ahead of time, dear Neil Diamond people, I like Neil Diamond. He's a genius, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't like the song where he goes, I am, I said, to no one there, and no one heard it all, not even the chair. And I'm like, really, Neil? No kidding. The chair didn't hear you. Well, it's because that's a chair, Neil. Anyway, so I wrote a column kind of making fun of that. And it just set off this firestorm of people who hated me for saying that and people who agreed with me for saying that. And it went on for weeks. In fact, it still goes on. People still tell me songs they hate, songs they love. I still get hate mail from Neil Diamond fans. And I'll get more now, thanks to you, Helen. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. You also, I think, criticized opera. I think it was opera. And then a woman from Eugene said, well, come and be part of the opera here in Eugene. And you played a corpse.
Yeah, I did. I made fun of opera because what happened was in Copenhagen, in Denmark, an animal in the zoo died, keeled over dead from shock. And it was an animal called an okapi. It's like an antelope. And they concluded that it was shocked by, there was an opera company rehearsing for an outdoor opera, and the noise apparently shocked this animal. And so I wrote a column saying, well, if opera can kill this animal 300 yards away, imagine what it could do to humans at close range. We need to ban opera in this country. I got almost as bad as the Neil Diamond people. I had a lot of angry mail about that. But then the Eugene, Oregon Opera Company, great people, invited me to Eugene, Oregon, which is very hard to get to from Miami. You have to take 18 different planes. You have to fly the last plane yourself because there's not room for you. And they had me play the part of a corpse in an opera in Eugene, Oregon. So I was a dead person in Eugene, Oregon, in an opera.
And it wasn't as easy as you thought it would be.
No, don't ever. If anybody ever asks you to be an opera corpse, just don't do it. Because first of all, they put a lot of stuff on you. It's very itchy, and you have to hold really still. And then these opera singers who are not quiet people bellow into your ear at close range. And I mean, I'm surprised that I survived. The okapi was killed in Copenhagen, and then I came pretty close.
There you go.
In Eugene, Oregon.
Well, moving up to Portland, you were on AM Northwest a few times with our own Jim Bosley, who was hosting AM Northwest back then. You've made a number of trips to Portland.
Look at me. God, I look like I'm 10 years old. Look at me. I got a mullet.
Do you remember any of the trips to Portland?
Yeah. I used to go to Portland regularly on book tours, and Portland and Seattle both. And all people up there, great. Powell's bookstore up there in Portland.
The best,
wonderful bookstore.
You start out the book, your memoir, talking about being a part of the band that Stephen King is a part of, and that friendship, and the friendship of all the people in the band. Tell me more, because it really is kind of a centerpiece to you, because there's a lot more to you than being a funny guy.
Yeah, there I am actually with Warren Zevon and Stephen King. Warren Zevon played with our band many times. Stephen King, along with me, is one of the original members of this band called the Rock Bottom Remainders. It's a band of authors. We're not a good band. Roy Blunt Jr., who is one of our founding members, described our genre as hard listening music. But there we are. There's the band. But we have so much fun. We raise a lot of money for charities, although nobody will ever bring us back for a second time.
Wonder why.
No, but you're right. We've become, these are some of the closest friends I have in the world now. All because we started, it was supposed to be a one-time thing. More than 30 years ago, we got together one night and played for a bunch of booksellers. And we stunk, and we still stink, but we had so much fun that we still do it.
And Alan Zweibel is there, and you two are still good friends, and you write together.
Yeah, that's Alan and me, and that's I think that was late Frank McCourt. Yeah, Alan and I, Alan's one of my good friends. Alan and I wrote a couple of books together. We wrote a book called Lunatics.
Yeah.
And there he is, Alan. I mean, I love Alan. I'm giving him a big hug there. He's a very funny guy.
You also, I didn't know this until reading your memoir, you wrote for the Oscars. Steve Martin wrote you a letter, and a very funny letter, asking you to write for him for the Oscars when he hosted.
Yeah, he asked me to come out and write, and I had never written any kind of for anybody. I always wrote just my own stuff, but I did it a couple times, and it was just fascinating to go out and be part of that whole, sit in a room with these really smart TV writers, joke masters, and Steve Martin, and try to come up with jokes. Tremendous amount of pressure, but it ended up being really, really fun, and got to go to the Oscars, got to be backstage. My wife got to sit in the same row as Julie Andrews, which was the high point of her life. So.
I love that. There was a sitcom based on your life. I mean, like, who gets a sitcom based on their life? That's pretty cool.
It was cool. It was in the early 90s, and Harry Anderson, the late, great Harry Anderson, played Dave Barry, this guy who was a columnist at a Miami newspaper. It was kind of strange because I was still working as a columnist for a Miami newspaper in Miami, and meanwhile, out in LA, they were doing this show where Harry Anderson was playing me, Dave Barry, who was working for a Miami newspaper. But it was written by, people thought I was writing it, and I wasn't. I was writing my column. It was based on a couple of books I'd written, so the premise was sort of me, but the actual show wasn't really me. So it's very strange, this show about me, and I'm not on it, not in it, not writing it. But they did pay me, which was nice.
There you go. That's the most important part. But one of the things I couldn't help but notice is you didn't include the exploding whale, unless I missed it.
No, the exploding whale is not in this book. I feel that I have gone to the well many times with the exploding. And just for the record, the exploding whale, I still believe, is the greatest thing that ever happened in the history of the world. And I'm including creation in that statement.
Okay.
So I will forever be a huge fan of the exploding whale, but I don't want to be the guy who just always writes only about the exploding whale. But I still worship the exploding whale as a thing.
I love it. We want to tell everyone the book again is Class Clown, How I Went 77 Years Without Growing Up. Dave Barry, thank you so much. Always great to talk with you.
It is, Helen. It's fun to talk to you. Thank you.
We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.